So I welcome all the participants today to day 4 of our 10-day certificate course. And we are very fortunate that Mr. Hanish S. is with us today. Mr. Hanish is a very well acclaimed expert in GST, and sir has been very kind enough to share his presentation and share his thoughts and discuss with us on a very important topic today, which is assessment. Now it is like 6 years into GST, and we all have our clients receiving various notices on various aspects of assessment, whether it is best judgment assessment or whether it is scrutiny assessment or whether it is unregistered person or registered person. So there are a variety of things that needs to be discussed in assessment. And Mr. Hanish will take us through all the nuances of the important issues in assessment. So the moderator for the day, sir, today is CA Rohit Prasad. So myself and Rohit, we are available. Even if our screen is off, we are there listening to your words of wisdom. And we have almost like 34 participants. So without wasting any more time, I will just request Rohit to formally introduce you, sir, and then you can start.
Okay. A warm good evening to all the 34 participants and especially to Hanish sir. Thank you, sir, for taking this opportunity for Association of Corporate Advisors and putting up your knowledge for this event. So let me formally introduce today one of the national speakers of India in terms of GST and indirect taxes. Hanish sir is a chartered accountant with 15 years of experience in the field of IDT. He is a partner at HSK and Associates, a boutique firm working exclusively in the field of indirect taxes. He works closely with clients in the field of real estate. He has represented clients at various forums like Advanced Ruling and SESTAT. He is a national level speaker and has presented papers on various platforms like BCAS, ICI, CTC, FKCCI, BCIC, ICSI, and Institute of Cost Accountants of India. Sir, I welcome you, Anish, sir, for this program, and I look forward to start the program with you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rohit. Thank you, Tarun, and thank you all the participants who have assembled here for this session, which is, I think, more of a litigation series which is being conducted, because I saw the topics and the speakers, apart from me, all seem to be like the powerful speakers who can, represent the client and get good orders for any kind of a issue. Okay, so I was just going through the list. Amazing list of speakers you've got, Tarun sir and Rohit sir. Thank you very much for that. And in fact, if time permits, I would want to be participant for this session. Maybe 1 or 2 sessions I'll see if I can attend. Thank you very much for that. Okay.
So you can, so you can attend these sessions as per your convenience. The link remains the same for all the days, sir.
Oh, nice. That's nice. Then I definitely will, sir.
Yeah, any day you can join, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much, everyone. So next, though I know that 2 hours has been allotted to me, but if you look at assessment, though it is complicated, the number of sections which we have to deal with is very, very less. So maybe I think I should be able to finish my presentation in 1.5 hours. Maybe if time permits, we may take up some additional topic incidental to assessment, but I would not want to encroach upon the topics which have already been delegated to some other faculty. Right? Okay. So let's start with assessment. Okay. Just a step back before we go into the important topic of assessment. What do you mean by assessment? Okay, and how is it different from adjudication? That's the first thing which we will have to understand. Okay, assessment means trying to find out what is the tax I'm required to pay. The entire exercise which goes on in finding out what I'm required to pay is called assessment. So that means first I will have to go to the section 15 and find out what is the value of the supply which I am making. Okay, then I will have to go to the place of supply provisions under the IGST law, that is section 10, 11, 12 and 13, to identify whether the transaction which I am executing is a CGST, SGST or a IGST provision. Then I have to go to notification 1 of 2017 or notification 11 of 2017 to find out what is the rate of tax. Okay, only when I've answered all these questions, okay, I will be able to arrive at what is the total tax what I'm required to pay. And when I'm able to arrive at the total tax which I'm required to pay, that is called assessment. Okay. Now, if the officer does not agree with me, then he will do his own assessment, okay, of the liability, and based on that, the show cause notice will be issued under section 73 or 74, depending on what the officer believes is the right section, which is a totally different part. As of today, the topic which we are going to discuss is only assessment. So we are going to only assess whether the tax liability is correct or not. If the officer believes that the assessment is incorrect, or if we fail to assess, an officer assesses, then what are the powers available with the officer to assess? Like sir was mentioning about best judgment assessment. So when can a best judgment assessment come? Okay, so our topic today is restricted to assessment, and that is very important because if you look at, see earlier, if you have some experience of excise, okay, and I'm told even before my experience in excise started, the excise authorities were called to the factory and said, boss, we are removing some material, you please come assess what is the excise duty payable. So they would come physically to the factory, assess what is the excise duty payable, I would pay the excise duty, only then the goods would be removed. Okay, but that was creating a lot of issue because every time I have to clear the goods, it would depend on whether the excise officer is available or not. So that's when the entire department functioning moved from a restricted assessment to a self-assessment. Now, what do you mean by self-assessment? It means that the government gave powers to the assessee, saying you assess, you tell what is the rate of tax, you find out whether it is MRP based valuation, whatever you want to do in law, you do it, and you file the return. I will scrutinize your returns and check whether you have assessed yourself correctly or not. And wherever I find that you have not assessed yourself correctly, I will ask you for the differential tax along with interest and applicable penalty. Okay, so that's when we moved to self-assessment mechanism. Now, when we go to GST also, we go to section 59. Before we go to definition of assessment, let's go to section 59. Section 59 of the GST law talks about self-assessment. It says the primary responsibility of assessing the tax is on the taxpayer. The taxpayer will have to come forward and tell what is the liability he is required to discharge, whether he is eligible for an exemption notification, whether he is not eligible for exemption notification, whether the underlying transaction is a supply at all or not, or whether what he is dealing in is goods or services. Everything has to be assessed by the taxpayer only. Then he has to file the returns. And after that, I will pick it up for scrutiny, I will pick it up for audit, I will pick it up for show cause notice, or I will issue an order. So these are the powers available with the officers once I have done the self-assessment. But the starting point in GST is self-assessment only. Okay. Now, with that background in mind, let's first go to the definition of assessment. Okay. So I'll just share my screen. Give me a second. Hope my screen is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, right. So section 2 subsection 11 defines the term assessment. Okay. Now, if you see here, the definition of assessment says determination of tax liability under this act. So the entire exercise is to determine the tax liability under this act. And this includes the activity of self-assessment, the activity of reassessment, the activity of provisional assessment, summary assessment, and best judgment assessment. So we are going to look at all the types of assessment, but here I just want to highlight that if you look at the definition of assessment, it caters to, or it says it includes 5 types of assessment: self-assessment, reassessment, provisional assessment, summary assessment, and best judgment assessment. Okay, one line for each of these activities. Self-assessment is where I assess the liability on my own. Reassessment is where the officer reassesses whether the liability is correct or not. Provisional assessment is where I don't know what is the liability, so I ask the officer for help and he helps me out with the assessment. Summary assessment is, in short, he will assess so that he can find out what is the tax payable. And 5th is best judgment, when the officer does not have any information then he can go in for best judgment assessment. Now, one point I would like to highlight here is in VAT, particularly Karnataka VAT, because I was practicing VAT in Karnataka. Okay, we had a typical point where the VAT law was framed in such a way that it said the dealer, that is the taxpayer, is doing self-assessment. So the GST authorities cannot do self-assessment or they cannot do assessment. What they are doing is a reassessment. So any proceedings initiated under the Karnataka VAT law were called reassessment. Okay, they were never called assessment. Okay, now they borrowed the same concept even in the GST law, because they have introduced something called as reassessment under section 2 subsection 11. But if you look at the entire act, or specifically chapter 12, which deals with assessment, the heading itself is assessment, nowhere you will find the word reassessment. So though there is a definition which says assessment means or includes reassessment, there is no concept of reassessment in the entire act. It is either self-assessment, questioning that self-assessment, or a provisional assessment, summary assessment, or a best judgment assessment. Okay. Next, so what are the kinds of assessments which have been covered? There is section 59 which talks about self-assessment. There is 60 which talks about provisional assessment. 61 I have intentionally missed because that is not an assessment, this is scrutiny of returns. So that's why I have not covered in this slide, but we will be covering this as a topic. Then section 62 which talks about assessment of non-filers of returns. That means I am registered under the GST law, but I have not filed my returns. That will come into, then 62 comes into picture. Assessment of unregistered persons. That means I have not registered under the GST law at all. Then section 63 will come into picture. And summary assessments, section 64 will come into picture. So there are 5 kinds of assessment, and each of the triggering points are completely different. The rights and obligations of the taxpayer and the rights and the duties of the officers are also different. The forms which are required to be used are also different in each of the assessments. So let's look at all of this in detail. Let's first go to section 59. Now, what does section 59 say? I have not reproduced text word by word, but whatever was convenient to me, for me to drive down the point which I'm making, only that I have reproduced here. Okay. So what does section 59 say? 59 says every registered person shall self-assess the taxes payable under this act and furnish a return for each tax period as specified under section 39. So go to section 39. Whatever returns are required to be filed, you please file the returns by self-assessing yourself and please pay that much amount of tax. That is what is the meaning of self-assessment. Now, what does section 39 cover? Section 39 covers all the monthly and quarterly return filers. That is all your GSTR 1 and 3Bs. Okay. It also covers composition scheme dealers. It also covers section 51, where deduction of tax is required where there is a government contract. Then it covers input service distributors. It also covers non-resident taxable persons. Okay. It does not include deduction of tax or collection of tax under section 52, because that returns does not come under section 39. And it is not talking anything specifically about casual taxable person also. But anyways, that is also a self-assessment. But just to make a point, section 39 does not cover all these 2 persons, but still those are also under self-assessment mode only. Okay. So now what is self-assessment? When I self-assess the taxes and file my returns, and the return when I file and whatever data I mention and that return in that return, that is my self-assessment. When in the month of June, I file my GSTR 1 and say my turnover is 1 crore. Okay, and on that I'm required to pay 18 lakhs tax. That is self-assessment when I file my GSTR 1 and when I file my GSTR 3. Okay. Now here there are few doubts which I have, and if you would want to answer, I'd be more than happy. Otherwise, I will ask the question, pose the questions, and I will myself have to reply to this. Okay. First doubt what I have is, if you look at section 39, okay, section 39 very clearly says, okay, one of the provisions section 39, once you have filed the return, there is no provision to revise the return, that all of us know. Okay. But if there are any errors or any incorrect particulars which you have mentioned in the returns, which you want to rectify, then I will tell you a way in which you can rectify. You cannot revise the returns, but you can rectify the omissions or you can rectify the incorrect particulars. But you can rectify those only by 30th November of the next year. Okay, now input tax credit also last date is 30th November of the next year. Any rectification of data also the last date is 30th November of the next year. Okay, so that due date for output tax or for the returns data we find in section 39. So section 39 says if you say suppose in the month of April you had 10 invoices. Okay, you uploaded only 9 invoices, so there is an omission. You can upload that one invoice which is relating to the month of April whenever you realize it, that is May or June or July. Okay, or you uploaded 10 invoices but you reported 1 lakh instead of 10 lakh rupees. You can rectify that invoice. Okay, or that incorrect particulars can be amended. How do you amend it? By going to GSTR1 amendment tables. But when can you make these changes? You can make the changes only up to 30th November of the next year. So when we are talking about April 2023, the last date will be November 30, 2024. Okay. Now, considering this and keeping this in mind, can you help me understand when we file my GSTR 9 or 9C, is it a return for the purpose of self-assessment or not? Rohitji, are the participants also allowed to speak, or it is they'll be allowed only after my session is over?
So when your session is over, then they are allowed to speak because I've unmuted everyone. They can write on over the chat any kind of comments if they want. You want to ask.
Okay, okay. Then it will be only yes or no, thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay.
Yes.
So
yes.
no worries, no worries, not a problem.
Okay.
So the first question here to the participants is, do you think GSTR 9 and 9Cs are the returns for the purpose of self-assessment? Quickly, you can give your answers in the chat box. Are we getting the answers in the chat box?
Yes, sir, we're getting the answers.
Okay, I'm not able to access it. Give me a second because I've shared my screen. Just give me a second.
Sure, sir. The majority of the answers is no, sir.
No. Excellent. Very good. Thanks, Rohit. I'll require your help on this.
Definitely.
So, yeah, you are absolutely right, because when I file my return, when I file my GSTR 9 and 9C, I am filing that under section 44 and not under section 39. That means the GST returns under 9 and 9C cannot be considered as returns for self-assessment purposes. Okay. Now that you have admitted the answer is no, you have self-assessed the answer. Okay, I have not given the answer. You have self-assessed your answers. Okay. The officer now calls you and says, sir, there is a difference between 1 and 3B. Okay, there is a difference between GSTR 1 and 3B when he's doing audit for the year 17-18. He says, sir, there is a difference between 1 and 3B. Can you please explain the difference between the two? Why there is a difference? And if there is a difference, why don't you pay the tax? Our standard answer is, sir, 17-18 was the first year of implementation. Everybody has done a mistake, but I have rectified all those issues in GSTR 9. Correct? That is our standard response. And sir, 9 is going with into 9C. And 9C, I have matched it in my financials. What else do you want, sir? Everything is covered. Dekho, reconciliation table, mein everything is zero. Right? That is our answer. My only point is, now can the officer, if he is listening to our presentation, can he say self-assessment is 1 and 3B? Rectification of errors as may be prescribed before 30th November 2018. All of you have filed the returns in 2019, 2020 relating to 17-18. Due date is also gone. Correct? All those rectifications are fine. But you please give me the difference between 1 and 3B, reconcile. I am not going to consider GSTR 9. Is that a valid argument? I would believe it is a valid argument, because when we see subsequently in few of the sections, they say if you have not filed the return under 39 and 44, that means they're recognizing that 44 also is a return, but for the purpose of self-assessment, 44 is not a return. So if the officer says, I don't want to consider GSTR 9, then technically he might be right in reading between the lines, though practically he may not be right, because I've set right everything and I'm showing my turnover matching with financials. Okay, so technically he might be right, but practically it may be incorrect way of looking at things. Okay, but the point I want to drive here is 9 and 9C is not the returns for the purpose of self-assessment. Okay, can the errors or omissions be rectified in GSTR 9 and 9C? You cannot rectify the errors in GSTR 9 and 9C for the reason that GSTR 9 or 9C is not linked to your electronic credit ledger, nor is it linked to your electronic liability ledger. GSTR 9 and 9C, you can only disclose the correct numbers. But if you have to pay the taxes, if there is any shortfall, then you will have to use it through, you will have to pay it through DRC03 only. Okay. It will directly not have an impact on your electronic liability ledger or the credit ledger. Okay. That is one. Second point, what I'm trying to highlight here is that 9 and 9C is only for disclosure. Something you did not show as exempt turnover, interest, छूट गया. जब वो balance sheet बना या profit and loss account बना, that is when you realize that you have not reported interest. You can disclose that in 9. Or by mistake B2B turnover you have shown in B2C. You can rectify it, but there will be no impact because the other person cannot claim the credit. Okay. Even more funnier, you have not claimed input credit. Can you claim the input credit by way of GSTR 9 and 9C? Even if you disclose, it is of no use because, like I said, GSTR 9 is not linked to electronic credit ledger. Even if you show a higher amount of input tax credit in GSTR 9, it will not have an impact on my electronic credit ledger. So that means it is as good as you have not claimed the credit. Okay. So one very funny instance which happened when we were representing before an officer who said that, sir, in your electronic credit ledger, the credit available is 1 crore. Okay, sorry, in your input credit register, the credit claimed by you is 1 crore. But in your GSTR 9, the credit claimed by you is 10 crores. Okay, 9 crores you have claimed extra credit. Please reverse it along with interest and penalty. The difference was because of transition credit. Okay, because in GSTR 9, I will report even transition credit. But in my purchase register, I will record only transactions from 17-18 only. Okay, so that was the reason. But now just think about it. If they have to create a demand based on GSTR 9, especially for input tax credit, have I claimed the credit in GSTR 9? I have disclosed some number, but I have never claimed that credit because GSTR 9 does not allow me to claim the credit. It only allows me to disclose the credit. And it does not have any impact on my electronic credit ledger. Right? Okay. Another point which comes up why we want to give all the details to the department is that if we don't give the details to the department, they will say you have suppressed the fact. And so they will invoke section 74 and penalty. Now, what do you mean by suppression? Non-declaration of fact or information which a taxable person is required to declare in the return, statement, report, or any other document furnished under the law. So now my point, one more point what I want to make here is self-assessment is restricted to returns under section 39. But suppression is not restricted to return under section 39. It says non-declaration of fact or information which is required to be declared in the return under the law. So self-assessment is restricted to section 39, but suppression is not restricted to section 39. All the returns, all the data, all the statements which I'm required to furnish to the officer, all are covered. And if I hide something there, that can amount to suppression. But just a word of caution, we have section 74. Somebody will be taking that session in detail. But section 74 says suppression of fact with the intent to evade the tax. So that means there are two cumulative conditions which are required to be satisfied. Okay. Now, I have sold goods which was purchased in Africa, sold in Australia. Goods never came into India. Okay. So I am not required to pay tax because Schedule 3 comes into picture. I forgot to report this detail in GSTR 1, GSTR 3. I forgot to report that in my GSTR 9 also. Is it a suppression? Yes, it is a suppression because it is a non-declaration of the fact. Can penalty be levied to me on me under section 74? No, because there is no intent to evade the taxes. Where is the taxes? Okay, you will be surprised. Okay, in service tax era, there are cases where the courts have held if there is any RCM liability, okay, and the person has not disclosed the RCM transactions, but he was entitled to claim the credit if he would have disclosed and paid the tax, then suppression or extended period of limitation cannot be invoked at all. Because see, that person, he has paid some money to a foreigner and imported certain services. He missed paying tax. He missed reporting the tax in the GST, in the service tax returns. But if he would have reported and paid the tax, he would have got input tax credit of the same. Where is the question of evasion of tax here, or intention to evade the tax? It was a tax neutral situation. When it is a tax neutral situation, section 74 cannot be invoked, extended period of limitation cannot be invoked, penalty under section 74 also cannot be invoked. Okay. So this is what I had about, all I had in self-assessment. Though the slide is very small, it is very important, because if you look at the GST law, only one place it says burden of proof for claiming input tax credit is on the taxpayer. Okay. That means I have an onerous responsibility to prove that my input tax credit is correct. But that also means everything else, the burden of proof is on the officer. Correct? The rate of tax, whether 18 or 28, according to me, it is 18. Now the officer will have to prove why it is not 18 and why it is 28. You know, there are show cause notices which were issued in 1718, which said you have made unregistered purchases. Okay, what they did, they took my entire trial balance, reduced whatever purchases are appearing in my GSTR 2A. I said these are only registered purchases. Balance are all unregistered purchases. Divide by 2, because divide by that 3 by 12, because only till October that URD procurements from URD was liable to tax under reverse charge mechanism. They said all of this you are required to pay tax under reverse charge mechanism. No identification of vendor, no identification of rate of tax, that 5,000 exemption not given, lump sum. Total expense in the trial balance 5 crores, appearing in 2A 1 crore. So total expenses is 4 crores. 4 crores multiplied by 3 divided by 12 for 3 months, July, August, September. Okay, this much, that is 1 crore rupees. 1 crore multiplied by 18% is the supply executed by you from an unregistered person. Please pay taxes on the same, are the notices which were issued. The most easiest way to reply to this notice is, sir, I don't know whether it is liable to tax or not. But if it is liable to tax, the burden of proof is on you, because only on input credit, the burden of proof is on me. Everything else, the burden of proof is on you. Now you will have to just give me the HSN code, sir. If you give me HSN code of this 1 crore on which I'm required to pay tax, give me the rate of tax, give me CGST, SGST or IGST. I will pay the tax, sir. So the response was, respected sir, thank you very much for your notice. You have missed providing the HSN code. Request you to provide the HSN code so that we can initiate payment of taxes. Over. The officer after that never picked up our call. Correct, no? Right. Because it is his responsibility. I have self-assessed myself by not filling in the data in the GST returns. I have self-assessed that there is no liability to be declared at all. Now, if you have to prove me wrong, you have a burden of proof to tell me why I am wrong. So you prove. I am not required to prove. Correct? I have self-assessed myself. Why is this column 0? Sir, I have self-assessed. According to me, it is 0 only. No, I think it cannot be 0. You think is very good, sir. But you tell me if you have any proof to prove that that column should not be 0. I have thought about it as to why that column has to be 0. That is my self-assessment. If you have to deny that, the burden of proof is on you. Right? Okay. Now we move to provisional assessment. Okay. I don't think this provision has been used by anybody. In excise, at least somebody was using it. Practically, if any of you have seen some cases where it has been used, excellent. I have not come across any situation where this provision can be used. Okay. So what happens here is, assuming a person who is registered into the GST law is unable to determine what is the value of goods or services, or what is the rate of tax which he has to apply. That means he is not able to self-assess the liability. Okay. Then what he can do is, he can request the proper officer that, boss, I don't know what is the liability. I don't know what is the rate of tax on this particular product. So please allow me to pay the taxes provisionally. Okay, so I will file that application in ASMT 1, not ASMT 10. We are all used to ASMT 10. This ASMT 1, assessment 1, where under section 60, I will make an application to the officer saying, sir, please allow me to pay the taxes provisionally. Within 90 days, he will look at all the documents which I have submitted, identify what is the issue because of which I am not able to assess the tax, and pass an order under ASMT 4. ASMT 2 and 3 are there. That is, he will issue questions. I will reply to that. I'm ignoring all of this. So he will pass an order within 90 days of my application, permitting me to pay taxes provisionally. Okay. And he will also assess. He'll say, no, I think you pay 18% tax. Okay. I think the value is 20 lakh rupees. So he will ask me to pay, and I will have to provisionally pay that tax. So it is not a final assessment, it's a provisional assessment. When he passes this order, he will also take a bond from me that if there is any liability which comes up, as of now I've paid provisionally. Okay. But if final assessment is little different, it is on a higher side, then you undertake to pay that differential liability by way of execution of bond. Plus a BG also will be taken. Okay. So if the bond value is say 10 lakh rupees, if the officer believes that the differential liability can be 10 lakh rupees, so he will take a bond value of 10 lakh rupees. Plus he will give me, I will have to give him as a taxpayer 25% of that expected liability of bond as bank guarantee. Up to 25% I will have to give. For all this exercise to be done, 6 months time is available with the officer. Okay. Within that 6 months time, which can be extended by another 4 years, he can pass the order for finalizing the assessment. So I will repeat again, I will file the application. Officer has 90 days time to permit provisional assessment. I will make the payment. From that 91st day, the officer has got 6 months time. And in 6 months, even he is not able to identify, then he can go to his superiors, take the permission of the joint commissioner, and extend that period to 4 years. Okay, but that is based on extension asked by him from his seniors. Once he has assessed and he has come to a conclusion as to what is the value of goods or what is the value of services, he will give me an order for finalizing the assessment. Okay, so assuming both of us had agreed at that point of time that the liability comes to say 1 crore. Okay, but in the final assessment, he believes that it is not 1 crore, it is 5 crores for whatever reasons. Okay, then I will have to pay that 4 crores differential liability along with interest based on the time of supply of the original transaction. He might have passed the order after 6 months, but the transaction took place in April. So from April, as if I'm required to pay 5 crores in April, I'm required to discharge interest for those 4 crores for next 6 months. Okay. But assuming the liability determined is 1 crore, but the order says that the liability is actually not 1 crore, it is 80 lakhs. In this case, you have excess paid the taxes. Now, based on that order, you will have to file the refund application for 20 lakhs. And if the refund order is not processed within 60 days, then from the 61st day, you are entitled to interest. So look at this. When it is your money, which you have short paid, the interest will apply from the date of the transaction. But when there is excess money for which you are required to get the interest, it will come only once the order is passed, you have filed the refund application, and the refund is not given to you within 60 days from the date of the filing of the refund application. So then the interest will start only from the 61st day, right? And then you will apply for release of bond and bank guarantee. So that is as far as provisional assessment is concerned. Practically, I have not seen in GST, at least in excise, there were a lot of cases where people would go for provisional assessment. Okay. Now let's move to section 61. Very interesting section, because almost all the notices coming to our offices are from section 61. Non-billable notices come from section 61. Correct? No? This is not matching with that. That is not matching with this. That's what they ask. So now what is section 61? Section 61 says a proper officer may scrutinize the return. So what is he doing? He is required to look at the GSTR1 or the GSTR 3B or the GSTR 9 or any other return which I filed. He has to scrutinize that. And the related particulars furnished by the registered person. That means he will compare the returns with the particulars related to that which is being furnished by the taxable person or the registered person. And once he has compared, he will verify the correctness of the return, whether the return which has been filed is correct or not, and inform the taxpayer about any discrepancy. Which I will repeat again. The role of the officer as far as section 61 is concerned, under which he issues ASMT 10, is to compare the returns filed by me with the details furnished by me. He cannot compare somebody else's returns and my data. He cannot compare my returns, somebody else's data. Correct? It has to be my returns and my data which I have furnished. Only that can be compared. Okay. So now whenever he finds there is a gap, what does he do? He will issue a notice under ASMT 10. ASMT 10 does not qualify to be a notice, but he will issue a notice to inform about any discrepancy. I will file a reply to that under ASMT 10, ASMT 11. The time limit for that is 30 days. Okay. But the officer, if he wants to, he can give you additional time. Okay. There is no upper limit to it. There is no minimum limit time to it. Depending on your equation with the officer, or depending on how you are able to convince the officer that you require more time or less time, he can give you additional time. If he is satisfied with the response, okay, then he will issue a ASMT 12. How many of us have seen ASMT 12 issued by the officer? Rohit, you have to help me out with the answers in the chat box if you get.
Yes, sir. There's no kind of reply as of now.
I will repeat my question. Your clients
yes.
have received, or you have received ASMT 10. You have filed a reply under ASMT 11. If the officer now believes that whatever you have replied is correct, he is required to issue ASMT 12 saying issue closed. How many ASMT 12s have you seen?
So yes, so the audience are replying that we have received SMT 12. Yes, received. Yes, sir. Most of the matters have been received.
If you have received ASMT 12, please frame it and keep it, because that's a certificate from the department that everything is correct. In my case, of the so many, sorry, Rohit.
So one of the participant has written, Mr. Jyoti Prasad, that officer never gets satisfied.
Perfect. That is the point. He will never get satisfied. So that is why if you have received ASMT 12, the tax certificate what you get is of no use. This ASMT 12 is a certificate that is like a participation certificate, no use. ASMT 12 means officer is got satisfied with your answer. Please frame it and keep it. That is an achievement, right? Okay. Now I have few issues. By using section 61, can the officer issue notice? And here also again I will require answers in yes or no. Can issue notice in ASMT 10 where he say that look, your GSTR 1 is not matching with 3B, so there is a difference, please pay the tax. Can he use ASMT 10 to issue notices for comparison of 1 and 3B?
So waiting for the replies.
Yeah, guys, please reply quickly. No replies?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The reply has been yes.
Yes, because
yes,
they are scrutinizing the returns and the related particular details furnished by me. So 1 is also my return, 3B is also my return. They are comparing. So they can use section 61 to issue ASMT 10. Can they issue a notice to me saying that your form 26 AS is not matching with GSTR 3B? Can they issue a ASMT 10?
No. No, sir.
No.
The majority
we have been filing replies. Till now, we have been filing replies in ASMT 11. Now, when we look at section 61, arey, ye to tha hi nahi. Kyunki where is section 61 applicable? When my returns is compared with my data. 26 AS will have my PAN, but it is not my data. Somebody else has uploaded it. He might have uploaded in wrong PAN. Correct? That is not my data. Form 26 AS is not my data at all. So officers cannot compare Form 26 AS with GSTR 3B. Okay. Next, can they compare 1 with 9C?
Yes. The
They
reply
can
is
compare,
yes.
but that will be of no use. They can compare 100% because 1 is based on GST principles, 9C is based on accounting principles. They can compare, but it will fetch not much results. But can they compare? Yes, they can compare. Important, most important. Can they compare GSTR 3B with 2A or 2B?
Yes, sir. The reply has been overflooded with yes.
Yes, sir. GSTR 3B with 2A. Rohitji, what do you think?
Yes, sir, absolutely. This is one of the
Absolutely.
major, absolutely, sir. This is the major
Sir,
difference which is coming in our
in
SMT 10.
ASMT10. Correct?
Yes,
No.
yes,
GSTR 3B is your data.
yeah,
Is GSTR 2A furnished by you?
no,
No. Then how can ASMT10 be issued? Our reply to the same should be, and I know nobody will reply like this, but just in case you want to take panga with the officers,
of,
sir, section 61 not applicable. I don't know how section 61 applicable, because section 61 requires the officer to scrutinize the return and related particulars furnished by me, not by somebody else. To a who is furnishing, I have no idea at all. Somebody knows my GST number, he has uploaded it. Is that my purchase? Somebody who has my GST number, who was supposed to upload, has not uploaded. Correct? How can you compare these two? Under 61, not possible. Under burden of proof is that you should have claimed the input credit based on satisfaction of all the conditions. He can issue a notice under some other section, but not under section 61. Correct? So if you want to take panga with the officer, this is one of the ways in which you can take panga. You can take one ground as void ab initio. Right? Okay. E-way bill, can it be compared with GSTR1? Guys, e-way bill, can it be compared with GSTR1 under section 61?
yes, sir, the majority answer is yes.
Now it is very simple because e-way bill also generated by me, GSTR1 also filed by me. Here it is my data being compared with my return. Then no problem. That's where the issue is GSTR3B and 2A. One is my data, one is not my data. So comparison is not possible. Clear? So please understand that 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 61, all the sections have a role to play. And those can be used only in those situations. 61 can be used only in a specific situation. It cannot be used in some other situation. No, then which situation 3B versus 2A will come? I don't know. And I don't want to know because I don't want that notice. That the officer has to know under which section he has to issue. But if he issues under section 61, then it is completely incorrect because section 61 does not cover that situation at all. Right? Okay. Now we move to the next section, section 62. Section 62, the mandate is very clear. We go to some offices, no, they'll say object statement, vision statement, mission statement. Correct, no? So you know what that office is for. Here also it is very clear. Section 62 is applicable only for assessment of non-filers of returns. So if you are registered under the GST law, but you have not filed your returns, then section 62 will come into picture. Now what happens here? Section 46 gives powers to the officer to issue a notice if you have not filed the returns. Okay. Here I am using the word returns, not under 39. The word uses returns under section 45, referred to under 39, 45, 44 and 45. Okay. That's what 46 says. 46 says that if you have not filed the returns under section 39, which we already discussed, 44 or 45, we'll come to what is 44 and 45. Then the officer can issue a notice to you saying from the date of notice, you please file the returns within 15 days. That is the notice the officer can issue. If you don't file the returns within the next 15 days of issuance of this notice under section 46, then 62 says, so one is 46 says, please file the returns within 15 days. Officer has got the powers to issue the notice. If you don't comply with that notice and don't file the returns within 15 days, then the officer now has got powers under section 62 to assess the liability to the best of his judgment, taking into account all the material available facts. So whatever facts or materials are available with him or gathered by him, based on that he will do a best judgment and he will pass a order to assess your liability. Okay, and that will be under ASMP 13. Tera 13 is always a dangerous number, correct? No unlucky number. So he is going to pass the order under ASMP 13. Okay. Now, will he give me a personal hearing? Nothing. The section says there is no personal hearing at all. Right? So what he will do, if I were an officer, I know somebody has not filed the returns, issue 46, wait for 15 days, 16th day, best judgment assessment. According to me, India's GDP is growing by 20%. So whatever is the last year turnover, add 20% to that and multiplied by, I believe the rate of tax is 28%. Self-assessment, best judgment assessment, best for me, not for you, no. Multiplied by 28%. Okay, please pay this much amount of tax. No show cause notice, no personal hearing. Straight away assessment order under ASMT 13, because section 62 allows the officer to assess the tax because you have not exercised your right of self-assessment. Clear? When can this come into picture? It can come into picture for three kinds of returns. Section 39 returns, which we already discussed, 1, 3B, composition scheme, etc. Section 44, that is 9 and 9C. So here for 62, 9 and 9C is also written. And if you don't file, he will do best judgment. If the officer gets to know about it, as of now, he knows 9 and 9C, if you don't file, late fee only. If he gets to know, I can do best judgment assessment. If 9 and 9C is not filed, I don't know what will happen. Right? Or if somebody is filed for cancellation, the order has been issued and he is required to file the final returns. In that case also, the officer can opt for best judgment assessment. Is there a timeline within which the best judgment order has to be passed? Yes. Within 5 years from the due date of filing the annual returns in form GSTR 9, he has got that much amount of time. So basically under section 74 also, he has got maximum time is this only. Even under section 62, this is the maximum amount of time available within which he is required to pass the order. Okay. Now, one very interesting point here is, say, assuming April return, you were supposed to file by May 20th. Okay. You did not file the return on May 20th. The officer on 21st of May issued a letter to you saying you have not filed the return. Please file the return in the next 15 days. So that due date gets over on 5th of June. Okay. 5th of June, you did not file the return. 6th of June, the officer, to the best of his judgment, passed the assessment order in ASMP 13. Okay, 6th of June, or for practical purposes, we'll take 1st of July. Okay, he has time. You did not file the return within 15 days. He has 5 years time to pass the order. So on 1st of July 2023, for the month of April, he passed the best judgment assessment order. Okay, if you file the return for the month of April within 60 days from the date of the order, that is from 1st July, you have got 60 days time. 30th August 2023. If you file a valid return, then this assessment order under ASMP 13 is deemed to be withdrawn. That means this order was never passed at all. Is this clear? So I will repeat again. If the order is issued, but within 60 days of issuance of order, you file a valid return for the month for which you had not earlier filed the return. Okay, then that order is deemed to be withdrawn. Now they have made a recent amendment where they have said that if you don't file the returns within the 60 days, first 60 days, you pay additional late fees, then I will permit you to file the returns in the next 60 days also. Okay, first 60 days you have not paid, you have not filed, you pay additional late fee. In the next 60 days also, if you file, then I will withdraw the assessment order passed under ASMP 13. So effectively now you have 60 days time plus on payment of additional late fee, you get additional 60 days time. Okay. Now you will not believe again what happened using this provision. Okay. And why this additional 60 days was bought. Okay. During COVID, a lot of people did not file the returns. Okay. All the notices went to the accountant who has left the job. Okay. They passed the assessment order. That also went to the accountant. Nobody responded for the first 60 days. Straight away bank attachment, because now order has been passed. You have not responded to any of the communications. Straight away bank attachment to withdraw this money. Okay. Only when the bank was attached, the taxpayer got to know oh, this kind of order has come to me. Okay. Now, if you look at the appeal provisions, you can file the appeal within 3 months' time, which can be extended by another 1 month. That's when an amnesty scheme was announced. Even recently, this amnesty scheme has been extended to 31st of August 2023, where they say if you have not filed the reply if you have not filed the returns within 60 days, it is extended till 31st of August 2023. At least by then, if you file the return, I will withdraw the ASMT 13 orders. Okay, because a lot of people ran into problems because of this section. They were not aware. Only when the bank got attached, they realized that they have missed replying to those notices and missed replying to the orders. And the last date for filing an appeal against that order also is gone. So that's why this extension came. Okay. So be careful if you get any notice under or assessment order under section 62. Ensure that you file the return, even if it is a wrong return. Because when you file the return, it is a self-assessment. Correct? You have self-assessed something wrong. No problem. Rectify it subsequently, but at least file a return and get this order dropped. It has to get dropped immediately. It is a deemed withdrawal. You don't even have to require a closure letter that no, this order has been withdrawn. It is a deemed withdrawal. Right? Okay. Now we go to section 63. Again, the role of section 63 is very, very particular. Look at the heading. Assessment of unregistered persons. That means 62 will come into picture if you are registered but not filed the returns. 63 will come into picture if you have not taken registration under the GST law. So when does 63 come into picture? When a person fails to obtain registration, even though he is liable to pay the tax. Okay. Or his registration has been cancelled, even though he was liable to pay the tax, his registration has been cancelled, or he did not obtain the registration at all. Then officer can proceed to assess the tax liability to the best of his judgment by issuing assessment order under ASMT 15. So look at this. Earlier was ASMT 13. Here you will get an order under ASMT 15. But the section itself clearly says the order cannot be passed. Okay, the order cannot be passed unless an opportunity of being heard is given. And that opportunity of being heard is given by way of a notice under ASMT 14, for which reply has to be filed maximum within 15 days. So under section 62, unfortunately, there is no provision for personal hearing or opportunity of being heard. But under section 63, first a notice will be issued saying, according to me, you are liable to pay tax. Why have you not obtained registration? You are required to pay this much amount of tax. Okay, I will reply to that ASMT 14, and if the reply is not satisfactory to the officer, then he is going to do a best judgment assessment of my records and issue a ASMT 15. Right? Now, what is the time limit within which ASMT 15 can be issued? Again, 5 years from the due date of filing the annual returns. Okay. This is applicable even for cases where registration has been cancelled, but the business continues. So you have seen a lot of cases where, business has been discontinued. Business is continuing, but registration has been cancelled. During COVID, they did not file the returns, registration cancelled. They are also continuing business like that only, without even a GST registration. So even those cases where the registration has been cancelled, but the business continues, section 63 can come into picture. Registered, non-filing returns, 62. Unregistered or registration has been cancelled, but business is there, where there is a liability to pay tax, section 63 will come into picture. Difference between 62 and 63, 62, no opportunity of being heard, 63, there is a opportunity of being heard. Both the orders can be appealed. So it is not that it is a final order. Okay, both the orders can be appealed, but the time limit for filing appeal is 3 months plus 1 month of continuation of delay, and pre-deposit has to be made. Pre-deposit of 10% is required to be made. So if the officer comes with a huge imaginary liability, you are required to pay 10% of that amount as pre-deposit. Only then you will be able to file the appeal. Otherwise, you will not be able to admit the appeal account. Right? So section 62, 63, very painful orders. If you have received, you have to respond to them or take corrective actions immediately. Under 62, the corrective action would be to file the returns. Under 63, the corrective action would be to explain why you have not taken the registration. Now, section 64, okay, that is the last type of assessment, okay, which is there in the GST law. What is summary assessment? Okay, where the proper officer has a evidence that there is a person, okay, who has a tax liability, but he is not going to pay the tax liability. Okay, there is a person who has a tax liability, but who is not going to pay the tax liability. Then, with the permission of the additional commissioner or the joint commissioner, the officer can assess the liability under ASMT 16. We finished 13, we finished 15, now it is ASMT 16. Okay, he will assess the liability under ASMT 16 to the best of his judgment. Okay, and when can he do that? When can he invoke section 64? When he believes that the taxpayer on whom there is a tax liability, if he does not pass the order, or if there is delay in passing the order, it will have an impact on the interest of the revenue. So basically, if there is a builder who is required to pay tax at the rate of 1% or 5%, okay, the officer knows that he has made sales before occupancy certificate was issued. Okay, but officer also has the information that this builder is planning to run away from India. Okay, in that case, if the assessment is not closed, there is chances that the person can go out of India and he will not be tracked at all. So there is an interest of revenue which will come into play. To safeguard the interest of the revenue, what he will do? He will do a summary assessment, not get into too much of details. Based on whatever information is available with him, he will do a best judgment assessment, okay, and he will issue the notice to him, or he will issue the order to him. Okay, now whenever that order is issued to him, if the taxpayer can identify that there is a mistake, okay, or he can point out that no, whatever you have computed is completely wrong, or the person whom you are thinking of is not me, it is somebody else, okay, then he can file a letter in ASMT 18, okay, or if the additional commissioner or the joint commissioner only believes that the order which was issued under ASMT 16 is wrong, or it is erroneous, it was to be issued to A, but by mistake we have a wrong identity of Mr. B, okay, then the order can be withdrawn. If it is by the taxpayer, the order can be withdrawn if the application is made within 30 days, but there is no time limit if the error is found by the additional commissioner or the joint commissioner. So I will repeat again. Assuming there was Mr. Neerav Malia, okay, I have no idea who this person is, and any resemblance to any person is only coincidental and nothing intentional. So there is one person called Neerav Malia who government believes is going to run away without paying taxes. They can do a summary assessment and tell him that you are required to pay this much amount of tax, and this is the order. So either an appeal will have to be filed, or you have to pay this money to close the case. Okay, so that can be done in ASMT 16. But now Neerav Malia says, sir, I have no transaction only. You have by mistaken some other Malia's case imposed on me, right? So it is a case of Mr. X Malia's liability you have imposed on me. So there is an error in your ASMT 16. If he files that letter and the officer is satisfied that there is a incorrect or mistaken identity case, then they can withdraw this order. Or if the additional commissioner and joint commissioner gets to know that there is some error in the order, they can withdraw this order by filing form ASMT 18. By issuing form 18 that I have dropped the order. Clear? Okay. Next, if government believes that Mr. X is liable to pay tax, but Mr. X is not traceable. On all documents, Mr. X name is there, but who is Mr. X? Nobody knows. Right? It's like that cryptocurrency founder. Everywhere his name is there, but who is he? Nobody knows. Right? So everywhere name is there. On passbook, on Aadhaar card, on bank slips, entries, everywhere his name is there, but who is he? Don't know. And the underlying transaction relates to goods. Then whoever is holding the goods on behalf of Mr. X or for that transaction, that person will be deemed to be a taxable person and he will be assessed to tax, so that government gets its revenue. Whoever it belongs to, that person will be assessed to tax. These are all Hindi movie situations which we will never see. Hopefully we don't see in our real life. But this is what I have gathered when I read these sections and a little bit of practical experience here and there. Not under section 64, definitely not section 64 practical experience at all, which I gathered. So I thought I will share it with you. Okay, so this is what I had. I know it's a short session because when I looked also assessment, only 4 sections are there. Interesting sessions. One more interesting point which I would like to highlight here is, if you observe best judgment assessment, it is possible only in 3 cases. You are registered under the GST law, not filed the returns. You are not registered under the GST law, but having GST liability, or summary assessment. Only in these 3 cases, best judgment assessment can be opted for. In no other case, if you are registered, you have filed your returns, the officer cannot say, you have not given me details, so total turnover multiplied by 120% is your turnover. No, he cannot do at all, because best judgment assessment is not possible. If I filed my return, it is self-assessment. Now officer will have to prove that what I have done is wrong and come up with the correct number, and that correct number cannot be best judgment, because that best of his judgment is available only in 62, 63, 64, in no other cases. So he cannot do a best judgment assessment, right? Okay. So before I hand over the proceedings to Mr. Rohit, okay, we've just created one small WhatsApp community where we share something relating to GST and answer questions for all of our members. So if you want to join that community, you can just scan this code and you will get admitted into the community. Any questions you have on GST, please feel free to contact me. I'll be more than happy to reply to those questions. Okay. Now, with this, I thank ACAE for inviting me, and thanks a lot to my dear friend Shubham, who suggested my name. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Patient because Rohit was smart enough to mute all of us, all the participants. That's why there's a patient listening. Thank you very much, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Sir,
If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer those questions.
Yes, sir. There are a few questions raised by the participants and regarding the chat. So I would keep forward the questions in front of you. So the first question is by Mr. Kavin, sir. Whether the opportunity of being heard is available when the department finalizes the liability under section 60?
Under section 60, provisional assessment. In provisional assessment, the entire process itself is consultative basis. So you will file an application, they will ask you more questions. Based on that, they will confirm the provisional assessment. Then they will ask you more questions. You can make your own submissions, and then they will finalize it. But I think instead of provisional assessment, advanced ruling is better. Anyways, you have decided you want to commit suicide. So commit under advanced ruling, not under provisional assessment. You will get quick resolution, because in provisional assessment, you will have to pay the taxes upfront. In advanced ruling, you can keep going on appeal. Advanced ruling, then AAAR. If you're not satisfied with the answer, you can go to High Court also.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So the next question is by Mr. Naveen, sir. Can we file return within 30 days under section 62? Assessment automatically gets vacated.
Yes, correct. The moment you file within the 60 days, not even 30 days. Okay. Within 60 days, if you file, earlier it was 30 days, but now 60 days, if you file the return and they say valid return, they don't say correct return, true or correct return. Okay. I did not tell anything to you. You did not listen anything from me. Okay. As long as you file the return, that order is deemed to have been withdrawn. Yes, sir.
Okay. So the next 3 question is by Neeta ma'am.
Okay.
So the first question comes into the screen like this. In how many days department has to revert on notice reply uploaded by us?
There is no time limit, but the point is that all the proceedings, if they are under 73, will have to be closed within 3 years time. Okay. And if it is under 74, it has to be closed in 5 years time. So that is the upper cap they have. Okay. Because all this notice reply also has to lead to a show cause notice. Standalone, these notices will not do anything. It will lead to show cause unless there are orders. So ASMT 10 by itself does not lead to anything at all. They issued, you replied. Whether they issue ASMT 12 or not, unless they issue a show cause notice, it is of no relevance only. Okay. That show cause notice and order have got timelines under section 73 and 74. If they don't adhere to those timelines, then there is no use of this ASMT 10 at all. Whatever demand they were planning to create will automatically get vacated.
Thank you, sir. So one of the most important questions which Neeta man has put forward is that is if notice is sent by state, can center will again reassess the case and issue notice for the same period and the same thing?
This is a nightmare actually for all of us actually. If you see the GST Council discussions right from the first meeting, the most important issue which was raised before the GST authorities was in the GST Council was that look, multiple agencies cannot assess the records of us individual taxpayer. Otherwise, we are back into pre-GST era where central government will ask something, state government will ask something. We cannot have that. So that is when they came up with a formula where they said, if the turnover is less than 1.5 crores, okay, 50% of the, 90% of the assessees will be assigned to the state, 10% of the assessees will be assigned to the center. And if the turnover is more than 1.5 crores, 50% of the assessees will be assigned to center, 50% will be assigned to the state. Now, how do I know whether I'm assigned to the state or the center? Go to your business profile section in your GST portal. It will be written jurisdictional office. The jurisdictional office is your administrative office. So any correspondence, including registration amendment, refund, any ASMT 10 audits have to be done by that office or the counterpart. So if you are in the center, the audit can be conducted only by the center. The refund can be sanctioned only by the center. The registration can be amended only by the center. Okay. Now, when you are a assessee of the center, state cannot come in. Okay. The exception is only enforcement related matters. So in the GST Council also they discussed where there is enforcement or intelligence related matters, like example is DGGI. Then DGGI will have pan-India territorial rights and any assessee. Only in those cases, like say example DGGI which we are talking about, they can issue notice to the state assessee also or central assessee also. Clear? But if you are under the state and audit has been conducted by the state, now center on the same issue cannot issue the notice, leave alone for the same year, even for the next year. Because even for the next year, you are assessing under the state only and not under center.
Thank you, sir.
Right? Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So the next question is, can we find out the GST number by address and business name only?
No. If you get to know, you let me know also. I want email address also of that person.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
Cannot, yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. So my final call for the audience, if any audience has any questions with our esteemed speaker, Mr. Hanish, sir, so they can raise their hand so that I can unmute them one by one and they can ask questions directly from the speaker. I welcome you all on board to ask questions to the speaker.
How is the weather in Kolkata, if I can ask?
So it's rainy. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
same.
humid. It's rainy. It's too much rain, sir. It's humid.
And a lot of participants from Kolkata only, or we have participants from other places as
So
well?
we have participants from all India, 28 states right now. So
Wow.
mostly they are from Calcutta and
Mostly.
southern part as well.
Oh, very nice. I can see my friend Yash Shah. He's also there here.
Oh.
Nice.
So, I think there is no other questions to be asked by all the participants. The way you explained in-depth analysis and everything has been completely set off all the doubts which have the participants basically, right? So I would hand over this event to Sir Tarun Gupta, sir, for a few words on your session. Tarun, sir, please.
Thank you, Rohit.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. I heard your session, and I think it was a very wonderful session. You have dealt with all the subjects of assessment and all the sections in a very nice and lucid manner. I'm sure the participants have really benefited by today's session. Sir, I will request you if you can share the PPT with us. We will share.
Yeah, 5 minutes I will share it with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
5 minutes.
So we will share it with the participants, sir.
Sure, sir. Sure.
So Rohit, any other question, or can we close it for the day?
Yes, sir. I don't think there is another questions right now. People, the participants are saying agreed. It's wonderful session.
Yes,
Wonderful session, like that. So,
correct.
so everyone is praising a
Uh,
lot, sir,
So
because of the
I
wonderful
yes. So
session.
I just had one small uh, thought that when we are getting these notices under 61 scrutiny, so as you have rightly said that there is no option for any personal hearing. So I
But
was basically,
61 officer can give if he wants to give.
but when the ASMT 10s and all they are coming, so in the box where it says personal hearing, so it basically says not applicable or no. And I think the section also does not allow any hearing per
Hmm.
se. It is up to the officer. So if you connect
Correct.
with the officer and the officer agrees to give you a hearing formally, informally, whatever, you can go and discuss and place your points or maybe seek some documents or records which they may be having based on which they have given the scrutiny ASMT 10.
Correct.
So how correct is it? Because you see, I was also discussing this with one of the GST officers. So that you see the outcome of an ASMT 10 is either they will go for 73 or 74, or maybe they will give it to the audit commissionerate and audit will maybe start under 65. So
Right.
all these, or at least the notice in the 73, 74 is something that is an adverse action against the assessee. So why is there no opportunity of personal hearing in the proceedings under 61? That was my point.
Okay. So I look at it. Point well taken that in the section there is no mention of personal hearing. Okay. But it depends on when we ask the officer, then he may give, he may not give. Okay. But sir, again, what are we looking at? We are looking at an opportunity of being heard before a case has been created against us or a liability has been created against us. Because the law says if you are punishing somebody, please at least tell him, let him tell his last words before he's being punished. Okay. That's where it is very important for us to understand what is the role of Section 61. Section 61 allows the officer to issue ASMT 10. We reply under ASMT 11. Basis that he may issue a show cause notice. But to conclude the show cause notice, he will have to give us a personal hearing. So
Right.
effectively, for any adverse order which is going to come against you through ASMT 10, you will get a personal hearing. So
Correct.
be it audit, be it section 73 or 74, whenever the notice is issued, to conclude that notice, a PH will have to be issued.
That is correct. But the point is that it may have some implication on the penalty that I may have to pay. Because if, say,
Yes.
at the point of 61 only, I am able to, say, explain it to the officer, or he explains to me that this is the discrepancy, and if I pay it that time only, I may maybe save on some penalty, maybe
Yeah,
the
that is
10%
true.
under 73. Or many a times we are also saying that nowadays officers are not issuing, say, DRC 01A. They are immediately issuing DRC 01 under 73 or 74. So then that brings in the aspect of penalty. So had
Correct.
I got it under 61, an opportunity of
Hmm.
being heard, and say, let us assume I am convinced that I have to pay, at least
Hmm.
that penalty is saved to that extent.
Yes, I agree with you on that point, sir. Yes, sir.
So that is, but the response of the officer with whom I was discussing was that why at all do you want a hearing? You know, because it is based on scrutiny, desk assessment, and the returns that you have only filed.
Hmm.
So if I'm coming up to you with an ASMT 10, your only opportunity is ASMT 11. That is
Hmm.
what you can, whatever you have to say.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we have faced many times. I'm sure you would have also faced that when the ASMT 10 is coming. So many a times there is no, these figures don't correlate with what
Hmm.
actually you have filed. Because
Hmm.
we have also faced issues like when they say that, figure as per say 2A
Hmm. Hmm.
not match with your 9 or the 2. If you download all the 2As today, it will
Correct.
not
Correct.
match with that. Then
Correct.
many times they will say figure as per 3B or
Correct.
9C. So it
Hmm.
it does not
It,
match.
yeah,
Now
it will
if
be
you,
helpful. Hmm.
or maybe if they are comparing the e-way bill data with your invoice data, so the e-way
Hmm.
bill data is not matching. So now when you go back
Correct.
to the officer and say that if you give me the, say, invoice wise data or the e-way bill wise data, I can at least do my reconciliation and tell you
Hmm.
that this is mine or this is not mine or this is the reason. Now the offices themselves, they don't have that data many a time.
Correct. I agree with you, sir.
So they say, okay, now we don't have the data. Now you,
Now
whatever
do
you
it.
have, you know, what is your submission or whatever data you have, you please submit
Correct.
that to us.
Correct.
So that is one issue that also, you know, many a times as practitioners or as taxpayers we are facing.
Correct, sir.
So,
I agree with you.
are you also facing the same thing over there in
Same, sir. Officers, same breed.
Karnataka, that, you know, the data is not, you're not being able to get the data or something like that?
Yeah, so they issue notice where they say e-way bill not matching with GSTR1. We would
Right.
not have downloaded e-way bill data because the portal has its own restriction. We go back and say, sir, you have given the notice, but we have not downloaded. You give us the data, we will give the reconciliation.
Right.
The portal number, what we are getting on the portal is different from what they are getting on their portal.
Right.
What is appearing in my GSTR 9, table 8 is not matching with the report which they have.
Correct.
So all permutation combination is there, sir.
Is possible, yes. So it's a all India issue that you all are facing.
Yeah. I agree to that extent कि आप penalty बचा सकते थे. That's a good point.
Right.
But personal hearing is that eventually you will get. But अगर you were made aware of that issue beforehand by way of a PH,
yes,
then you would have avoided penalty.
Correct.
That's a fair point, sir.
Yeah. Also, we have faced, I don't know whether you have faced in Bangalore or not, that once a scrutiny has been done, they issue say order for audit, which is okay. But then after audit, maybe, you know, SERA audit comes in picture. And now they issue their audit queries or the audit notices under 61, saying that we have now done a scrutiny. And so here, in one of our cases, we had taken the point that, you know, after 61, you can do 65.
Correct.
After 65, you can't go back to 61.
Perfect.
After 61, 65, you have to either go for 73 or 74. So the
Correct.
notices that were issued by SERA, irrespective whether they have power to audit or not, that is a separate issue.
Yes.
But you can't go back to 61.
Agreed,
So
sir.
we were able to have our small win, I think, over there, because then SERA did not come back on those points. It was just one small point that we agreed and we paid the tax on that. But then it seems that they agreed to what we were saying and so they did not come back. So that way the taxpayer, my client, he could save quite a lot of, you know, future litigation problems.
Right. Correct, sir. That's a good way of handling, sir.
Yeah. So that was some 2-3 things I thought I'll share. Rohit,
Yes, sir.
do we have any questions now?
Yes, sir. We have a question from Aditya Singhania, sir. So the question put forward is like this. Section 61 says the proper officer may scrutinize the return. The scope of the scrutiny seems to be wide, as because how will he scrutinize the ITC claim until he compares with the GSTR 2A? Kindly share your views, sir.
So if you see here, it says scrutinize the returns and related particulars furnished by the registered person. So tomorrow, if the officer says, give me your purchase register, I give the purchase register that he can compare with 3B in 61. But 2A and 3B, he cannot use section 61. He will have to come through 73 only or 74. Entry from 61 is barred, is what I'm trying to say, sir. Anyways, the legal sanctity of 2A itself is in question mark. Okay, that aside, so I'm assuming that says 2A is regularized. But the point is, the section itself says your data I will compare with you. Somebody else's data I will not, under section 61. So what powers have been given in 61, you will have to exercise those powers only.
But Hanish sir, have you tested this point of, I heard you also that under 61, they can't do a comparison of 2A and 3B. Have you tested this with the departmental officers?
Yes, sir. Tested, sir.
So what are they saying?
No, officer did not reply after that, sir. There's no reply on those initial 2A, 3B notices which suddenly came up, no? Once the GST 2A was made available. This was a standard reply that one, under section 61, you cannot come at all. Second, where is the power to compare with 2A? So those 4-5 standard points, plus once 3 is not notified at all and it keeps getting delayed, then matching also keeps getting delayed. So where are you getting the powers? That standard reply, like a format they were issuing notice, like a format we were filing a reply. and after that nothing has come through.
So they are
So
not
to-
taking this point of 2A, 3B in your 60, in the cases you are handling of under 61, or you are giving a standard reply.
So there it all depends on client to client. If the liability is very, very negligible, then no point of litigating.
Yes.
So they're paying it. Or if it is very high and we know that one of the vendors have not paid, then using that circular which talks about certification. So depending on the facts of the case, different strategies are being used. But a straight ASMT 10 on 2A versus 3B, we are refraining from replying. And even for audits, sir, in Bangalore, at least our office we are practicing, no one-to-one correlation will be done for 1780. No one-to-one correlation will be done for 1890. And if you want 2A also, I will not give 2A because that is not being prepared by me. If you ask me to download 2A and give it to you, I will not. You will have to download from your system, you match it and then come back to me. But I will not do it. There is a resistance, there are issues. But with this, we would have overcome one issue, some other issue will come. So there is resistance, sir. It's not that it is easy, but we have been able to a certain extent, been able to do something around this.
Okay.
So,
Okay. No, this is a good point.
Yeah.
But we'll have to test it, because if you challenge the authority of the officer and saying that this is not under your purview, that is not, so, you face resistance, and maybe sometimes they also become aggressive. So we'll have to test it.
But Tarun sir, just one thing, okay, these are initial years of GST.
Yeah.
Whatever trend we are going to set now, no, sir, is going to
Right.
be trend for the next 50 years. Nice. So we will have to be a little aggressive for our next generation. Otherwise, what was passed on to us in excise, same thing we will be passing on to the next generation.
Correct.
We'll have to take that load.
Right. I get it.
So I would like to call the audience for any other questions for our speaker. So nothing as of yet. All your queries have been resolved by sir. So thank you so much for your in-depth explanation for all the assessments, self-assessment under section 59, summary assessment under section 64, and the best judgment assessment as well. So, and now I would call on Tarun sir for the vote of thanks for this event.
Yes, thank you so much.
Tarun sir, you had called Arup sir also to check how good a speaker I am. Arup ji bhi hai.
Arup ji hai?
Just he came, he switched on his video.
Oh, okay. Just a second. So I'll just share the e-memento. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable views.
Thank you so much,
I'll
sir.
share this e-memento with you over WhatsApp and email. And thank you so much. And I will just let me see Arup is here or not. Arup,
Yes.
Oh yes. Arup.
So, Hanishji, welcome to City of Joy.
Arup ji, namaste. It's a pleasure being with the people of City of Joy.
Okay, thank you, Arup, for joining. I'm sure you are benefiting out of this certificate course also.
Yes.
Because we as organizers are also having a very good time, and so many concepts and so many things are getting cleared, because it is such a evolving subject that you just can't stop. Everyone has their own views and new thoughts.
And I think, Tarunji, the best part of all these sessions is that we get a lot of new ideas.
Right.
Just on this person hearing aspect, these questions are coming up. So I think now it is high time that we represent to the authorities.
Right.
Even maybe you have to have in the provision of personal hearing.
Correct,
so maybe in the days to come, Hanishji will come and say that in that session I had said that there is no provision in the law, but now the provision is coming. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I think we all have benefited from the presentation today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now I think we will close the session for the day today. And thank you so much, sir, once again. And we will meet again tomorrow at 5. Thank you so much. Thank you, Rohit.